Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and we, of course, talk about horror movies. And we've had a long line of absolute disasters over the past month or so. So we're hoping that today's movie is finally something that'll make us happy, something that's worth talking about, something that we can recommend and say, go watch. What are we talking about today? We are talking about XX, which is a new anthology film, and the hook here is that it's all the shorts were all directed by female directors, and that's the basis for the title. The main characters are mostly female as well, and that's kind of the thing. So there's 4 stories in it. It's kind of hard to talk about these without getting into spoilers because we have to do each story on its own. So I think we'll just give a general overview of how we felt about it as a whole without spoilers, which will maybe just be a couple of minutes, and then we'll go one by one through the stories and talk about them. So, Tim, moment of truth.
Oh, what's
I was going to
that?
ask. You just assumed what the question was, so go ahead. Did you like it?
Right.
Did you like
Yeah.
it? That's all I was going to say.
Overall, I did. I liked it. I wouldn't say that I loved it. I think it's an enjoyable movie. It's a nice way to spend 80, 90 minutes. I liked all of the stories to a degree. There's nothing about it that made me like hate it or get mad, but at the same time, there wasn't anything that was like overly, oh my God, this is amazing, or oh, this is like an instant classic or my new favorite. It's just I'd say bottom line, it's just it's good, but not the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm maybe slightly more negative than you actually, because I think for me, I liked the first story, and I thought, oh, there was something to that. There was like a nice sort of message underneath there. It was about something. It felt like there was themes, and it felt like there was some depth to it. And then I thought, hey, if they started off with one of the weaker ones, this could end up being great. Unfortunately, though, I thought they got progressively worse as the movie went on. I think the last couple in particular I didn't like all that much. So for me, I think first story's pretty good. Second one's okay. It's got some nice things about it, but then the last two, I was kind of like, and the last one especially is kind of disappointing because the last one is directed by Karen Kusama, who directed The Invitation, and so I was looking forward to that one. I thought, oh, they're saving the best for last. They're saving that one till the end, and then I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah, I can't say. I mean, again, I don't think you're way off base or anything. They're just kind of like, it's just there, It's not like
Yeah,
it's not overly.
Yeah, I want to put a point. It's not like it's terrible. The ones I don't like. It's not like I got to the last one. It's like, oh, this is garbage. It's offending me. It was just kind of, like it was. I wasn't into it. It was there. It was like you say. It just kind of existed.
Especially when you compare it to, like you mentioned earlier, how we've been watching a lot of garbage
Oh
so
yeah.
far this year. This is like leagues beyond
Oh yeah. This is
some of the other stuff we watch.
this is competent at the very least. There's a
Yeah.
competency, competence to it. But that's kind of where I fall. It's just kind of a mixed bag, and unfortunately, I think more of it I was kind of lukewarm on it. That I'm kind of leaning towards being kind of negative. That's sadly though. That's actually a big step up for us, since the last batch of movies we've been watching. So I think that's pretty much all we can do in terms of spoil. I guess the only thing I can say without spoilers, just to give you a sense of the stories. The first one's very. I don't even know how to describe the first one without talking about the plot, but the second one's more of a black comedy. I thought second one's more of a sort of silly fun thing with a sort of dark twist. Third one's more of a sort of people go camping,
Campy.
there's a monster thing happens, and that's kind of it. Then the last one's kind of a my child may be possessed or whatever kind of thing. So that was kind of them. I think we have to go into spoilers to talk about them at any great length because you can't talk about short stories without talking about the whole thing. So let's put it on full spoilers for XX. So the first story is called The Box. I will say I thought it was weird how, because there's these little interlinking. It kept going back to this like stop motion house, and there was these creepy like doll heads and stuff, and it was just a sort of, you don't have like a host, but you go back to this as if it is the host kind of thing, and that was fine. But what I thought was weird though is that it would always end with big red text saying what the next story was. It kind of said the box, and then the box would start playing, and then the box itself would have its own credits, and then it would say the box again. And almost all of them said their own title twice, because it said it before it started, and then it said it again in the short. It made it feel like they'd all been made as short films that weren't supposed to be connected, and then were edited together, which I don't think is the case. I think this was intentional, but it felt that way because the titles kept coming up twice. But
yeah, it's a little strange. Although I do think it's a pretty good payoff in the second story. Like the second story actually does something with it.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
But yeah, other than that, it is kind of unnecessary.
So yeah, the first one's called The Box, and it's about a family, focusing mainly from the mother's kind of perspective. And she's got 2 kids, she's got a husband, and they're on the train home. It's Christmas time, and she has some narration, she has some voiceover explaining how the kids were a handful today. She took them to a movie, took them ice skating, but they're still a handful, and it's a bit much. And there's this creepy guy on the train with a present in his lap, and the son basically pesters the guy, and the guy's like, "Oh, it's okay, you can see what it is," and he lets him see in the box. We don't get to see what's in there, he just sort of peers in, but he looks kind of changed. It looks like he's had...
He gets very sullen.
Yeah, after looking into that box, he looks like he just got back from Vietnam. That's that's how I would describe the look in his face. And basically, the son stops eating. Like, he keeps saying that he's not hungry, and like days go by, and they start to get worried. And then he passes on whatever he saw to the sister, and the sister stops eating, and eventually the husband stops eating, and that's kind of the plot. First thing I'll say about this though, actually, there's 2 things I want to say. One's relevant to you specifically.
Okay.
First thing, this made me hungry as hell, because the way this short plays out is that it keeps cutting till like the next night's dinner, and it would come up saying Tuesday, and then it would cut to an overhead shot of whatever they were having for dinner that night, and it would be like just plates of spaghetti meatballs, or it'd be plates of chicken, or plates of pizza, whatever they were eating, but it always looked good. Like, they put effort into making this food look appealing.
Yeah. I forgot to mention this to you before you watch it, because I watched it, I think, a day before you or something, but I was going to warn you not to watch this first one on an empty stomach, because, yeah, like, the food really sticks out as looking overly delicious.
I know.
And it makes me so angry that this little snot is not eating it. Like, oh, like, I would kill right now for that spaghetti or pizza.
Yeah. I think one was Chinese, but it was just everything looked good. There wasn't a single one of them that looked bad, and I was wanting all of it. It was upsetting me. The second thing, this is obviously your favourite of the 4, just purely because the little girl was reading the Hellboy comic at one point.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was actually thinking of like trying to do like some screen grabs of one of like her eating pizza and then the other reading Hellboy and being like, is this my daughter? Because those like 2 scenes back to back was like, oh man, I can totally, if I have a kid one day, I really hope it turns out like her.
Yeah, no, as soon as I seen that comic book, I was like, Tim smiled. Tim was happy when he saw this.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so he stops eating, and after like 2 days of the first night, I don't think anything of it. He's not hungry at dinner. Fine, it's not a big deal. It can happen once in a while. You still have the appetite. But then he does it 2 days in a row. They find out he's not eating at school, and the dad gets worried. He gets really agitated to go to the doctor. The mum kind of like writes it off. She's like, he's just going through a phase. He's eating a lot of junk food at school behind her back, so maybe he's trying to pretend to be sick so he can get off. And she kind of dismisses it. But then the sister starts doing it as well, and then the husband starts doing it, and that's when she gets really terrified. And we get this great dream sequence where the dad and the kids, and I'll be honest, at first I wasn't sure this was a dream sequence. I thought this might actually just be the ending to the story.
I like rewound it like once or twice, because then like the next scene, she's opening Christmas presents and stuff, but she has like, long pants or leggings or something on. So I did it once or twice where I was like, all right, did they maybe just eat her leg and now she's like covering it up or something? But yeah, it's obviously a dream sequence.
Because I legitimately thought while they were doing it that, oh, maybe this is the end of the story. Because sometimes these short horrors just like to have the shock ending, and maybe that's the whole point, is they were all not eating because they want to eat her instead. They're saving their stomachs for her, for human meat. Which would have been a fine ending. Then it goes on, it gets really somber, and we find out that all three of them all die in hospital over January and February because they're not eating. And she keeps like searching on the train for that mysterious guy that she saw that had the box that started all this, and she's desperate to know. And I thought that's had a good tone. I thought it kept building really nice. You really were wondering what he saw in the box, why this was happening, where it was going. And I think what really works for me though is this one, more than any of them, feels like, okay, I get that this was from a female perspective, because what I think this whole story is about, it's about taking the idea that the mother feels burdened because she's constantly looking after the kids and she's dealing with the husband, and at one point the husband even makes her feel guilty that she's eating when the kids aren't, and she's like, but I'm hungry. And at the end of the story, when she starts narrating again, she's talking about how she's desperate to try and find out why they stopped eating, because now she misses them, they're gone. And even the dream sequence is they're literally devouring her. She feels devoured by all the needs that they have for her, and she's almost abandoning her motherhood responsibilities and that stuff. And to me it was like just taking everything and making it literal, and making it like a body horror movie about her feeling burdened with them constantly feeding off of her, in this case literally.
Yeah, and you can even tell, like, in the dream sequence while they're eating her, she has like a big, like, plastered smile on her face. Like, she kind of just has to grin and take it.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, like, oh, like, no one wants to, hear you complain or, anything. I agree with you. This was definitely my favorite. It feels like the most fully formed of all the shorts. I feel like it has, the most atmosphere, the kind of clearest direction.
It also has it's the one that has the most. It actually has something to say. Like, we just talked about what everything meant. It had meaning. I watched it and I went, oh, this meant something. This was about the burden of being a mother and a wife, and all of the needs that people have from you, and you wanting to abandon them, but then feeling guilty that they're gone, and like, you feel empty because it is a part of your life, and like, it had something to say. Whereas the rest, I just kind of felt like, no, this is just for fun. This is just for what it is on its face value.
Yeah. And I don't think we talked about it too much, like, when we do these anthology movies, about the ordering, but I do think you brought up a good point where, this probably would have been better if it was like saved for the last story.
I think, do you remember when we did Holidays? I think that did a really good job of putting two of its strongest at the start and the end, so that you felt like you felt in a good place at the start of the movie, and then it ended strong as well, so you left feeling, oh yeah, like, sure, there was some dips in the middle for sure, there was some shots in that we didn't like, but they had like one at the start, one at the end that was good, there was at least one in the middle that was really good, so it was almost like they knew what the weakest ones were, so they were spacing them all out, whereas here it felt very much like a slow descend as we went along, which just made it feel worse by the time I got to the last one. Because after the third one, I thought, oh, that was kind of meh, but I thought, oh, the last one is the director of The Invitation, this is going to be good, this will be the best one. And it wasn't, and it was the worst one. Arguably, I mean, I don't know, I could argue that the third one's the weakest, but by the end of it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to say is that the first one was the strongest. The ordering of the other ones gets a little murkier for me, but yeah, definitely the first one, that's the highlight.
So that's the first one. That's the box. Do you have anything else?
I was just gonna say, just that I really like the mystery, and I really was enveloped in like the story, like, oh, what does it mean, and it doesn't feel cheap that you don't find out, like that there isn't like a payoff of, or I guess technically the kid does say it's nothing was in there, which could even be an interesting angle. I think
the ending that she's never going to know, but she's like, she needs to know, like, she's obsessed with it now. I think that's your ending. I think that works.
Yeah.
That now that her family's gone, she's left with this empty hole, which ties into the nothing in the box almost. It works. Yeah. It has the best ending, I think, of the four as well. I think the rest of them are all. Well, we'll talk. So the second story is called. That first one, by the way, was written and directed by Jovanka Jukovic. Second story is called The Birthday Party, and it was written and directed by Annie Clark. And this is kind of a black comedy where we've got a mother character who wakes up and they've got like an assistant, a maid. Well, I don't know what you'd call it. She doesn't dress like a maid, but she seems to be doing things around the house. So they're fairly well off. And she goes into it's a little girl's birthday, and she goes into the husband's office, not thinking that he wasn't home yet, and he's there, but he's like sitting there dead. And it essentially becomes, I don't want my daughter to be traumatized by her dead father on her birthday, so I am going to try and hide his dead body from her. So there's a lot of her like moving the body around and like hiding behind the couch when neighbors come by, and she ends up paying off the guy that's there to dance for the party, the kids' party, who's dressed as a panda. She pays for his outfit and dresses him up as in a panda, like the corpse. So the corpse is sitting there at the table while the girl's birthday party is going on. And it's basically just a series of little like funny moments is what it is.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one, but again, more as a comedy than like, you know, if it'd be hard to judge this as a horror movie. You know, it's an interesting idea, and you know, it probably maybe it could have been a little shorter. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was that long to begin with, but yeah, it's not like probably what I would want coming into a horror anthology.
Well, see, I kind of disagree with that, just in the sense that I think this is fine to. I think this is actually a good change of pace. Like, had the next two been good, like I would have been quite happy with this being a fun little black comedy in the middle.
Yeah, if the movie was better stacked, it probably wouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah, because it would feel like just a nice little change of pace where it's like, you know, it's funny, but it ended up, at least for me, being the second best one, which I really wasn't expecting. I thought, oh, it's going to get better again after this, but it kept getting worse. And I think it's witty at times. It has little good goofy moments. The shot of like the dead body but under the rug while she's like hiding behind the couch with the neighbours at the window, I thought was pretty fun. But there wasn't much to read into it. It was, you know, Weekend at Bernie's-esque stuff, antics, and that was about it.
I did like the joke at the end. You know, mentioned it earlier, but they do the full title.
Yeah, they do
after everything.
Yeah, they do the text at the end. It comes up. It comes up at the end again. The birthday party, and then it goes to a news screen and it says, AKA, was it the little girl name is Lucy?
Yeah,
and it's like Lucy's repressed birthday or whatever it is.
Like traumatized memory.
Yeah, and then it said, and it faded away, and then again it came up again in brackets. It said, though her mother was not to blame, but our therapist thinks that's why she can't have she can't have intimate relations. Like, and it kept going, and it was actually really funny. Like, it was almost the funniest part of the whole thing was that it just kept fading to more of a title.
Like, I can actually really appreciate it a lot more if, you know, this whole thing is like one big setup for this, you know, like payoff at the end. I actually respect that. That's like a lot of work just for like this one punchline.
Do you know what would have made it even better though? See if like a story later on in the movie was grown up Lucy, and we didn't realise maybe until she told someone the story of her 10th birthday party where her dad was a corpse.
I think especially like in the next story, you could have easily had someone like have a throwaway line, like, mention it.
Not even be important to the plot or whatever one she shows up in. Just a little connective thing, like, oh, by the way, when I was 10, my dad died on my birthday. That could have been fun. But that was kind of it. I don't think there was a whole lot to.
Yeah, it's not much.
A whole lot to go into that one.
There's definitely some questionable stuff in it. I don't know why everyone's dressing up in costume at a birthday party. The
costumes were weird as well. Like, could you even tell what any of them were meant to be? Obviously, the panda's the panda, but all the kids.
Yeah.
I had no idea what any of those kids were meant to be. See, because actually, one of my favourite moments, and I don't know why they did this, but I love that they did, is the moment when all the kids arrived with the parents. It goes into slow motion and this guitar music starts playing as they're all walking into the house, and for some reason I just loved it. But they're all walking in and it's all their like weird costumes, and I'm like, who's that meant? Who's he meant to be? Who's she meant to be? What?
I wasn't really sure either.
Oh, actually, I have a complaint about the first story.
Okay.
They're watching Night of the Living Dead in one scene, right? They're, as a family, they're sitting around, they're eating popcorn, they're watching Night of the Living Dead. They're watching it stretched on their widescreen TV. I do not approve of that. Right?
No. I didn't catch that. Well, I know they were watching Night of the Living Dead, but
Yeah,
notice aspect ratios.
because I know it's not in widescreen, so I instantly look, right, is it zoomed in or have they stretched it to fill the screen? And it was stretched. Everything looked fat. It was ugly and awful.
What's a really funny joke I like to do whenever characters are watching Night of the Living Dead in a horror movie. If you're watching with someone else and they're also a horror fan, you can turn to them and be like, "Man, how'd they get the rights to that?"
I appreciate that joke, Tim, but I feel like 99% of the people that you might say that to will probably just look at you and go,
Okay.
"What?"
Yeah. You have to be watching it with like a good horror fan, but like.
Yeah. If you don't, I'm sure we've mentioned this before on the show, but if you don't know, Night of the Living Dead's in public domain, so they're allowed to just put it in a movie. That's why it pops up so much in movies when people are watching something on TV, because it's free and it's something people recognize. So that's why. But there you go. So that was The Birthday Party. The next one was Don't Fall, which was written and directed by Roxanne Benjamin. And this was 4 vaguely annoying characters going camping on like a Native American not settlement, but like historical site. It's up in the rocks, and there's drawings on the walls and stuff. But they've got their camper out there, and one of the girls gets like scratched or something. I wasn't really sure, to be honest. Like, she just kind of goes, my hand, at one point when she's leaning against the wall. And especially it's them, like most of the shot is just them playing little jokes on each other, trying to scare the blonde girl, and then they're around the campfire, they're trying to scare the blonde girl, they keep talking, and then the blonde girl in the middle of the night turns into a monster and kills them all, and that's it.
Yeah,
Whole thing.
It feels like they were kind of trying to go for, like a cliche, cheesy, teen horror movie, but I don't know, it doesn't really pay off. Nothing about it is necessarily like too interesting or too over the top to really make it like that enjoyable.
Or annoyingly not even that bad. Like, it's because as much as I said the characters were kind of annoying, they weren't full on annoying. Like, they're not as annoying as I've seen characters be. They were kind of just, they were going for that kind of feel, so they're all vaguely kind of annoying, but not, enormously so. And then the actual monster stuff, the monster design I wasn't particularly fond of, and all the characters kind of die pretty quickly. It just, one by one.
See, I actually did kind of like the monster design, but yeah, you don't really get a whole lot of it. Like, I don't know, it almost feels like it could have been like the, beginning of a longer, movie or something.
Which is partly why I think it maybe fails, is that it needed time to actually build suspense, but because there was no suspense, things just all happened very quickly, and as a result, it just kind of felt like, well, whatever. Also, this is called Don't Fall. I get why the first one's called The Box, I get why the second one's called The Birthday Party. Now, technically someone does fall, but they make a whole lot of comments at the start about how, we're up high, and then even when the title comes on the screen, it like zooms back, like the camera tracks back, big aerial shot of them on the top of this rock face, and it comes up in big text, Don't Fall. And it's like, so it's going to be about vertigo and fear of heights, and someone's going to fall to their death. Doesn't happen.
Oh. Which was a shame, because I did think that title sequence was pretty cool. I thought that was a good shot. And it's also the most, like, there isn't really a payoff or a twist. I feel like all the stories had something at the end, that made you kind of go like, oh, okay. I mean, whether you liked it or not, like, there's something that's, at the end it's kind of like, oh, okay. And then this is just very much like, here's what it is.
Even in The Birthday Party, I wouldn't say it had a twist, but it had the ending where the corpse in the panda suit falls into the cake, so everyone they take the mask off, and they all realize he's dead, and it just goes to a slow motion shot of like the wife drinking booze as she looks mortified that everyone's discovered it. And
it's kind of, like the other ones, I feel like they had build up. This one, it like everything is slowly going up. This one just kind of felt flat, like the whole way.
It was flat and then just a spike.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, even though the black comedy and the Birthday Party, it was the build to a punchline. It was still a build.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It still worked. But no, I have nothing to say about Don't Fall. It was just kind of generic and bland, and
Mhm.
I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like the monster. I didn't think it was suspenseful. I also didn't think it was annoying either. Like, I didn't hate the characters. I didn't hate anything that was happening. It just kind of
Yeah.
existed. And
Yeah.
maybe that's more damning than anything else I can say.
Well, that's always the hardest. Like when a movie's like that, it's hard to kind of criticize it because if you're not completely leaning towards like one end of the spectrum, where you can say like, oh man, it's so bad because of this or this, or oh man, it's so great because of this or this. When it just kind of falls in the middle there, it's kind of like, well, it's it's there.
Because they try and build a little bit of character to the extent at least where you can tell each of them. Like the blonde's very easily scared. The brunette isn't. The long haired guy's kind of maybe got a crush on the blonde because he seems to always try and be nice to her. The other guy is the typical stoner dude who is playing all the practical jokes, but
Yeah.
that's kind of it. I don't know what the point of this one was, honestly, because it didn't do anything fun with the monster, so it just kind of felt pointless.
Yeah.
Well, that's Don't Fall. Oh dear, I feel really bad, but that's how it is. The last one is called Her Only Living Son, and it's written and directed by Karen Kusama, as we mentioned. And it's funny, actually, the actress in this is currently in Powerless, which is the one place I know her from. So as soon as she popped up, all I could think about was a character in that, and it was really distracting me for the first couple of minutes. But it was like very abstract scene at the start where we hear her talking about going on the run with her son, but we see that once the son's about to turn 18, it's his 18th birthday tomorrow, and he's in trouble at school. He's attacked someone. He ripped someone's fingernails out, is what he actually did. Yeah. And he is getting very disconnected from her. He wants to see his father, who he's never met, because they've always been on the run from him, and she keeps saying, oh, he's some Hollywood star, he's got like multiple wives that he's had, and he doesn't deserve you in his life, and so on. And but basically it keeps going, and it all comes to kind of the idea that the father, presumably to get his Hollywood career, to be successful in Hollywood, sold his wife as the vessel for the spawn of Satan. And now that he's turning 18, the kid is like growing like demonic nails on his hands and feet, and presumably he's going to become something. And that's kind of it. He's getting more violent, and the mother tries to convince him that no, it's your choice, it's not your. I mean, I guess this one has a little something to say, because I guess the metaphor here is it's kind of like the asshole father coming back and demanding to see the son, but this is literally turning the asshole father into Satan.
Yeah.
That's essentially what this shot's doing. Except I wasn't that interested, if I'm honest.
Yeah, this one's a little bit of a letdown. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that's an interesting premise. But yeah, nothing about it really hooks you. You know.
Do you know what I think the big problem is they keep talking about the kid, right? The son who's turning 18, but you don't really get enough scenes with him himself to actually build any type of like character. It almost feels like obviously the whole premise, the whole movie is that it's from the female perspectives, and I get that, but it does feel like this story would benefit from equally being from his perspective, where we actually get a sense of him being scared at the changes that are happening, which maybe would link to puberty, and you'd have some puberty metaphors going on or something like that. But it felt like everyone, it was scenes of other people talking about him. You know, it was her going to the meet the teachers, and the teachers were like, oh, he ripped someone's fingernails off, and it seems the teachers are all in the cult who are worshipping the Satan because they're all protecting him.
I think that's a little bit more the aspect that was interesting to me is, once you see the teacher or the principal, whatever, talk about like how, oh, we're not going to punish him, and like, oh yeah, he's great, we love him. And then you get like some weird stuff with the mailman. I think that's a much more interesting world to explore, but yeah, they don't do much with it. I don't know if it's because of the, short story aspect of it. There's not a lot of room to kind of build or grow off it, but
and I'm pretty sure this was the longest one of the four as well.
Felt like it.
Yeah, it did feel like it. Because yeah, like you said, the ideas themselves aren't bad, but it just kind of felt like I think the most interesting it ever got for me was when she was hiding in the closet and he was like
Yeah, oh
there
yeah.
and she was hiding from him, because that was a little bit of suspense, and I kind of felt that. But I think she almost became annoying as a character though, because when it became clear he was turning into something and she went through the whole, oh, you're my son, it's your choice, and she tries to hug him as he's trying not to be
Yeah.
evil. It kind of felt like I'd be far more interested if he was just a demon now and trying to kill her, and she was trying to protect herself, but she realized, all right, he's
Yeah.
no going back. It was just the whole mother trying to like stop her son from going evil thing. It just wasn't working for me for whatever reason. I think it's because, like I say, I wasn't invested in his character. I didn't care about him. I didn't know enough about him. 99% of the time I've seen him, he's been a complete dick to her.
Yeah.
I've heard him ripping off nails. He's got a box of ripped off nails in his room, a shoebox filled with them, which was really disgusting, by the way. So
And-
I have no reason to want him to not turn evil. I have no reason to want his redemption or want him to be saved from this. I don't care about him. So
Yeah. And now I have a question about the ending of it
go on.
too. So it basically ends, with them like hugging each other, but I guess they crush each other.
There's some weird camera effects. We hear some crunching noises, and then they fall to the floor, and there's like blood everywhere.
So, I guess it would make sense if he's a demon that he can like hug his mom so tight that it whatever suffocates her or breaks her spine or whatever. But then I don't understand why he died, because the mother doesn't have like any powers or anything, I assume, unless there is something else going on. Like you said, there's those flashes. If that has something to do with like the dad killed him in that flash or something.
And that's kind of how
by
I
the dad,
took.
I mean Satan
Yeah,
or whatever.
that's kind of what I took from it, is that because he was kind of defying him, he just killed both of them there and then. But I don't know. That's the reason why I don't like this one that much, is the ending is very kind of unclear to me.
Yeah.
And the camera again tracks out, and we see the cake that said "Happy Birthday" that she baked him. And it was like, cool. Yeah.
No, what I thought was interesting too. I don't know if you thought this or saw anything about this, but I did like just a little bit of like research
What?
skimming afterwards.
Gonna make it look the right fool here, Tim. You've been away researching.
Oh no, nothing special. But I just saw that some people were saying that basically the point of the story is supposed to be like a grown-up version of Rosemary's Baby, like that it's kind of connected to that. Like this is what basically would have happened after that movie. Like 18 years down the line. But I mean, I don't know how plausible that is. If that's just kind of like a theory someone had, or
I can see why that's the idea. But I guess my argument to that would just be though, well, I guess I have confirmed that I don't want a sequel to Rosemary's Baby.
I mean, again, I think there would be potential there, but yeah, you'd probably need a full movie to do it and a lot more like depth with the characters, just show more off.
Especially the son. I feel like we don't see anything of him try to fight back until the end. He just seems like he's being a dick. He's shouting at her. I have no reason to want him to not succumb to the dark side. I have no connection to him, and I think that hurts it a lot. And then the ending's kind of unclear and mushy, as you say, because it just I don't know what happened. I really don't know. They were hugging each other and then they both died.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So there you go. That's her only living son.
And again, like you said, this is kind of the like at least to me, like the big selling point of the movie was, hey, remember that movie last year or was it was last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah. We've been doing this so long. But yeah, like remember that movie last year that you freaking loved and was awesome? Like, well, that same director is doing a short story now. Like that is enough to sell me on anything. And yeah, to get this is just and again, I can't say I completely hated it. It This one and the third one are probably somewhat tied for me for my least favorite, but yeah, it didn't really do much for me.
Honestly, they both kind of suffer from the same thing as time. Like they both feel like they could actually just be full movies, and you could use the time to develop things and build suspense and make me care about
Yeah.
the characters. But they don't. Neither of them do. So they both just feel like they both feel like they just cut to the point. But by cutting to the point, you actually don't have a point
Yeah.
because you don't care about anything. Whereas the first one and the second one as well to an extent, but the first one feels like a full meal. It feels like you get everything you need, and it tells a story, and it's intriguing. And yeah, whereas the end of this, I'm not intrigued. I'm just kind of like, sure,
Okay. Thanks.
okay, thanks, bye. Credits, yeah, credits. I can leave now. But
Yeah, a little bit more dollhouse stuff, but
yeah, a little bit more Dollhouse stuff at the end, which was very interesting. It was shot in a real location, in a real creepy house with all these dolls in stop motion.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was fine.
I like that they did have like a wraparound thing to kind of, it doesn't just jump from story to story.
Honestly, though, it was creepier than any of the actual stories, though.
Oh yeah, just like looking at that weird, like it's a dollhouse, but with like a baby's face and like these kind of like wooden pegs for legs, and something about stop motion just is kind of creepy when things are moving. But it's not too obtrusive though. Like it's not like they were like 15 minutes long where you're like, all right, get to the next story. It's like just kind of quick little things.
Yeah. It was like a minute or two between each one. It wasn't a huge amount. But no, that's XX. So much better than the previous like 5 movies we've done. However, not by as much as I think we were hoping. So getting to ratings here, it's actually quite difficult because it's like, well, do we rate it based on the best one, or do we do an average of what we'd rate all 4 of them? Is it just kind of an overall feeling? It's hard to say. I'll go first, Timmy, because I feel like I'm ready to come in here with the rating.
Okay.
I'm going to say 6 out of 10.
Okay.
But I want to make it clear that 6 is because that first story is probably like an 8, and it's worth seeing that. And then the second one is perfectly watchable and kind of fun. The last 2 really drag it down. The last 2, they're like a 5 or maybe even a touch in a high 4 kind of thing. But I think the first one's worth seeing enough and enjoyable enough that I would say 6 out of 10 to say overall worth watching for that. But
yeah,
you could also just not watch it past that though. You could turn it off after that and be okay.
Well, this is something where I wouldn't encourage people to. Well, I'm people do whatever you want, but like if someone's asking for recommendations, this isn't one that I would say you need to run out to a theater, if it's playing in limited release, or to go rent it right away. But if it's ever streaming, I think it's a perfectly fine movie to watch on Netflix or something. Like it's not too long. It's not regrettable. It doesn't make you angry. But yeah, it's not something you need to rush out.
I would agree with that. It doesn't make you angry. You don't regret watching it, but I think the second half of it does really dip compared to the first half.
But yeah, I mean, I'm right where you are though. I think I liked it a little bit more than you, but maybe not by leaps and bounds. So I'm gonna give it a 6.5. But I mean, like you said, if you're doing them individually, the first one definitely would get a pretty decent score. Probably be the same around you as an 8, and then everything else would be 5, 6-ish territory.
Yeah. But there you go. That's XX. And if they want to make this series, they want to do an XX2 where they get like another 4 shorts, because there's no reason why the next one couldn't be amazing, like, and have good stories in it. Like, there's no reason why it couldn't. So by all means, give it a try if you want to. But that's us though. That's XX. Thanks very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below if you've seen it. Rank the stories if you want. Give us which one's your favourite, that kind of thing. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. Get our individual Twitters. Mine's at Wibble89. Tim's at Tim Vergulish for our everyday ramblings about things and whatnot. Other than that, remember me and Tim do weekly Tales from the Crypt reviews. We've been working our way through that. We're sort of nearing the end of season 2 now. Check out all the other movie reviews and TV reviews on the channel. And that's us. So we will be back next week. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.